Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing today? It is another day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Author's Excerpt Sunday. Today we have a special guest. His name is Mr. Alan T. Black, and the title of his book is Here I Am, Lord. It is a culmination of um, poetry, and it is a very inspirational book. And I want y'all to help me welcome Mr. Alan Black. Hello, Mr. Black. How are you doing today? Hello.
I am doing
Hello.
fantastic. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing marvelous, Mr. Black. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Doing fantastic.
Okay. So, where are you from, Mr. Black?
Well, I am smack dab in the middle of the country for your listeners. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, which is almost a halfway point between the East Coast and the West Coast. And for clarification and to reassure the listeners, we do have running water here in Nebraska. We have electricity, and it's not all tumbleweeds and everything, which some people think when you think about flyover country. There are
Okay.
actually human beings living in the middle of the country. So
Mhm.
just want everybody to kind of know that. But I've been here off and on most of my life. So I grew up here. I've
Mhm.
left and traveled to different places, lived in different places, but eventually came back and settled here in Omaha because of family and friends. So
Okay. All right. So, besides you writing, what other endeavors do you do?
well, for your audience, just to kind of give them a little bit of a background for Alan T. Black, my original writing foundation began as a lyricist with music. And the lyrics that you hear in the song, the storyline, and everything, that's really what captivated me from the time I was a kid, just
Okay.
listening to the stories that you're hearing in a song and everything. And so
Mhm.
I can remember growing up just being fascinated by what I was hearing and try
Mhm.
to interpret or try to figure out what the story is that you're hearing in the song. So
Mhm.
that's really where I began my writing career. And so once I got to college in the early 70s, I
Mhm.
just kind of decided that I really wanted to pursue that as a passion or to kind of chase that particular dream. And
Mhm.
Miss Moore, I'll never forget, I remember I did the first set of lyrics for a potential song, and I was really nervous about it because I said, well, is this really good enough? Am I on the right track here? And I'll never forget, I took them to a professor of mine who's sort of like my mentor, and
Mhm.
I let him read it over and everything. And he said, yeah, it's not bad, not bad. You got potential here. And so I was
Okay.
only about 21 at the time. And so I'll never forget, he encouraged me to continue to follow my dream and to follow my
Mhm.
passion. He told me that if you're going to really connect with this and do it the way you want, you've got to put in the time and be dedicated to doing it.
Mhm.
And that conversation has been 40 plus years ago, but I can still hear him saying that. And the point I'm getting to is what we say to each other and how
Mhm.
we encourage each other or the words that we share.
Yes.
Sometimes those conversations can last a lifetime
Yes,
and
they can.
can impact you in a way that can either be positive or it can be negative. And so,
Mhm.
my college professor, just to have him know that he believed I had the ability to do this, really gave
Yes.
me the motivation that I needed to continue to go on and pursue that particular dream. So
Okay.
I started doing that probably about 75 or 76. And yeah, that's a long time ago, but yeah, I'm up there in age right now. So I'm blessed to say that I'm 67 right now. I'm proud of it. So
Yes.
I
Mhm.
continue to do that. And for my lyricist side, if you cannot create the music, which I cannot do, but I can create the storyline, I've been
Mm-hmm.
blessed to be able to work with some people here locally and through technology across the world to collaborate and to create a song. They would take the lyrical story that I had and I would kind of give them an idea of the genre of music that I could hear the song being done with. And they would take it from there and then create the song itself. So it became a collaborative process, a collaborative uh, program that we did in order to really get it to where we wanted to go. So that really, Miss Moore, really that's where my heart really is in the music.
Okay.
I'm nerdy to the point that I can hear a song I've heard it 100 times, and I'll bring it
Mm-hmm.
up on something like YouTube, and I've got one browser open just to listen to the song. I've got the other browser
Mm-hmm.
open just to read the storyline because I just love the interpretation and what I'm hearing and how much it can impact somebody either in a good way or a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what my love is more than anything else is the lyrical side of who I am.
Okay. So how did that impact you in writing your books?
That's the strange part of it because it's only been really in the last maybe the last year or so that I'm really beginning to see how the two of them tie together.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has to have a point of origin. There has to be a beginning with something. And
Yes.
so now I'm looking back after 40 plus years or so from the lyrical side, and I'm beginning to see that that part of me that is creative has
Mm-hmm.
always been energized and always been motivated to try to create something that I think somebody might be interested in. And
Okay.
so now I'm beginning to see that bridge from there as far as say then beginning to cross over and to become a writer. But
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit and share with you and everybody listening that the aspect of being, say, a Christian author
Yes.
was not really something that I had a desire to do. It wasn't something that was on my plate. I'm going to really be honest and confess and be transparent.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, and this was in early 2015, Miss Moore, I was working part time, which I still am for like a hotel chain, just doing reservations in the morning. So
Mm-hmm.
I was working like from 6 in the morning until about 11 in the morning. So essentially, because I'm in the Midwest, that time frame from like 6 in the morning Central Standard Time to about 8, it's
Mm-hmm.
slow here because East Coast is just really kind of getting up by about 9 o'clock, getting to run. West Coast is
Mm-hmm.
probably about 8 o'clock our time. So we're kind of right in that middle of the time zone. So I just
Yes.
had a lot of free time from about 6 in the morning my time until about 8. And
Uh-huh.
I just kind of started writing down some thoughts, if you would call it freestyling, and just kind of did it that way. And
Yes.
that's really where the first couple of essays really began. But
Mm-hmm.
I have to confess and be honest as much as anything because I remember the first 2 or 3 essays that I wrote for the first book, Here I Am, Lord.
Uh-huh.
I remember I would finish an essay, Miss Moore, and then I would get up, kind of leave my pod station, and come back a few minutes later, and I could not, I couldn't remember what I had written. And this had only been like 10 minutes before that I finished it, and I would leave,
Mm-hmm.
come back, and I couldn't remember what I had written, and
Mm-hmm.
it scared me. It really scared me because I'm thinking, okay, lyrically, I can recall everything that I wrote word for word. But
Yes.
now I'm writing these short inspirational essays and
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what I've written. And it
Mm-hmm.
scared me to the point that I called a friend of mine who's a minister. And I said,
Yes.
well, what's going on here? Because this is out of the norm. My
Yes.
background professionally is in academics. And so
Uh-huh.
I'm used to doing things in a very logical, very step by step progression. And
Yes.
this was something that was completely outside the box. And I was not used to this. I was uncomfortable and I was scared, just being honest with you. So I was
Uh-huh.
asking my friend, I said, well, now what's going on? Because this has never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Am I okay? What's the deal here? And
Yeah.
again, the power of words and encouragement. He says, well, Alan, are you willing to be open and obedient to what God's asking you to do? And I said, yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. He says, well, if you just be obedient, what you're going to find is that God's going to give you what it is he wants you to do, what he wants you to write. All,
Yes.
all you need to do is just to be obedient and
Mhm.
trust God that he knows what he's doing. Now, I said, okay. And I said it just like that because I'm thinking, this is not me, because by definition, as I consider myself, when I look at myself,
Mhm.
I'm just a regular, ordinary person, just a regular guy. So
Yes.
I found myself thinking now, and I asked God, I said, okay, God, are you sure about this? Because there are people way more qualified than I am to be doing this now.
Mhm.
I mean, I
Yeah.
know people at my church who could really just knock this out of the park, and they've got all these credentials, and they're
Mhm.
ministers, there's apostles, and so I'm thinking, why are you asking me? I don't get this. And
Yeah.
so we went back and forth on this for quite a while, probably the rest of
Mhm.
2015. And
Mhm.
I'd like to tell you that eventually I brought God around to my point of view and my opinion. No, I did not. He just ignored me and he just ignored me. Okay, he's like, I'm gonna listen to you. I'm not gonna pay any attention. We're not
I
gonna do
know
it.
that's right.
So I just continued to keep writing and writing and writing. And
Mhm.
I got to the end of 2015. I come up with about 10 or 15 of these inspirational essays as such. And one of my former students, I let her read it. She says, well, why don't you write for a Christian blog? And I looked at her, and honestly, I didn't know what a blog was. I heard about it. I didn't
Yeah.
really, I didn't know what it meant. So I
Mhm.
told her, I said, well, yeah, but that's like for people who are writers. And so she looked at my material. She said, well, what do you call this? I thought, okay, I guess you got a point. So I said, well, okay, I'll try. And
Yes.
before, I'll never forget, between the beginning of November for about a month or so in 2015, I sent out maybe 12, 13 requests to try to write for a Christian blog, and all 12 said no. And then finally, the last one that I sent was to a publication, a website in Singapore. It's called Christian Blessings. So I sent
Mhm.
the editor one of my essays, and she liked it. I was like, oh. And then she wrote me back the next day. She emailed me back. She said, I like this. She says, I like what you're trying to say here, and it's short, it's to the point. She says,
Mhm.
well, so starting in January 2016, I want you to write for me every week. I was like, oh, no, 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 no. Wait a minute, wait a minute. First of all, I don't know
He
what
said,
I'm
wait a
doing. I don't know about every week. And this,
minute.
I told her, I said, wait a minute now, we got to back this thing up. I said, now, how
Mhm.
about once a month? Because I'm already like out here in uncharted waters, if we could call it that, just for the sake of discussion. I
Yes.
said, now, you talking about every week? I said, nah, how about once a month? She said, okay, let's do once a month. And
Yes.
so she told me for January 2016, I'll never forget, she said, I need you to come up with a topic that is like a great way to introduce the beginning of a new year. And she said it has to be at least 300 words. Now, in my mind, I thought 300 words might as well have been 30,000, because I was thinking there's just no way I can do this. And
Yeah.
so I was sweating bullets, man. I was just stressed out and everything. And
Mhm.
the deadline was coming up because I had to have the article to her by December 31st, 2015. And I'll never forget,
Mhm.
December 27th, about 4 days before the deadline, I'm driving home.
Uh-huh.
And of course, this is right after Christmas. And I hear on the radio this song, Old Lang Syne, if you're familiar with that. And
Yes.
so I said, oh, okay. But then what captured my attention were the lyrics. Again, this is that lyrical tie into now being a writer. Part of the lyrics
Mhm.
talks about, will old acquaintances be forgotten?
Yeah.
And it hit me. I said, that's it.
Yes.
That's it. And so
Uh-huh.
I'm blessed to say that that evening, the Holy Spirit gave me the idea to make my first essay for Christian Blessings in Singapore called Old Acquaintances. And
Uh-huh.
the focus of that particular essay from my first book, Here I Am Lord, is it talks about will old acquaintances be forgotten? And so I
Uh-huh.
framed it from the position that what are some of the old acquaintances that you want to forget and to put
Mm-hmm.
behind you and let go? Is it, in my case,
Yeah.
fear and anxiety, which I had to learn to let go? Is
Yeah.
it a lack of, say, follow through on your commitment as far as
Mm-hmm.
what you've been called to do? We all
Yes.
have those different things that are old acquaintances that we keep around because maybe we're comfortable with them. But at
Mm-hmm.
what point do we say, this old acquaintance needs to be forgotten? I need to remove it from my life so I can really go forward. And
Yes.
so that became the first article that I wrote for this blog in Singapore. And
Mm-hmm.
amazingly, I wound up writing for them for 5 years until the end of, I think, December 2020. And
Uh-huh.
so I just continued to write for them once a month. And in doing so, by the end of 2016, I had compiled enough of these inspirational essays to then look at putting them in a book. Now,
Okay.
going into January 2017, I'm sitting here at my computer and I'm like, okay, I've got all these essays. I
Yeah.
don't know what to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the first thing about being an author. It might as well be on the moon as far as I was concerned. So
Yeah.
I said, okay, God, you gotta help me figure this thing out. So,
Yeah.
like a lot of different entrepreneurs or artists or whatever the case may be, I had
Mm-hmm.
joined Fiverr a few months before, and so I went into Fiverr and I put out a request. I said, well, okay, I've got this stuff. I want to put it in a book form. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
So can somebody help me do this?
Yeah.
So this was on a Friday night, and I thought, okay, I've sent the request out. Maybe in a few months, I'll get some people to get back and say, yeah, I'm willing to help you out and see what we can do. And to my
Mm-hmm.
utter shock, Miss Moore, the next day, 32 people responded and said they wanted to work with me to get my book together.
Okay.
That was another
Praise.
scare because I'm like, God, I don't know who are these people. They're all over the world.
Yeah.
I'm asking God, what did you get me into? Because what is going on? I'm way out of my league right now. I'm just being real about it. I'm a real person, and,
Like, like
and
what in the world?
what am I
Right?
doing here? And
Mm-hmm.
he eventually led me to a young lady who was in South Africa, and she took my material, she edited it, she formatted, she got it ready to upload to Amazon. And the first Friday night in May of 2017, I logged into Amazon, and there was my first book called Here I Am Lord. And
Okay.
I remember, Miss Moore, I sat there and I just stared at the picture. I
Mm-hmm.
stared at the picture for about 5 minutes or so because I really could not believe that it had happened.
Yeah.
I just sat there and I thought, wow, God, this is
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
this really happened. I mean,
That's
what
really my stuff on the
what is
screen.
going on here? Because I'm like, how did this happen to me of all people?
Yes.
And what I want the audience to get in mind is the fact that if you're being called to do something,
Mm.
just trust God that He will get you to where it is you want to go.
Yes, he will.
Our obligation is to say, "Here I am, Lord, send me." Uh,
Yes.
the reason for that title is because I got tired at some point of fighting God and saying, "Okay, God, here I am, Lord."
Yeah.
Send
Mm-hmm.
me." And
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason behind the first book, the title of it.
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
I was still in a state of shock when it came out, and then my friends started calling and saying, "Oh man, this is great! This is fantastic! I'm gonna come to your book signing and get my book signed."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember thinking, what's a book signing? I don't even know what that is. I was like, well, I've heard of them, but
Yeah.
I thought people that are selling millions of books and celebrities had book signings, and
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to do one. And my sister was like, no, you have to do a book signing because people want
Yes, you have to do book
your
signing.
signature.
Mhm. Yes.
I'm thinking, well, it's just me. They know me. What's the big deal? And so I had a book signing. A lot of
Yeah.
people showed up, and I
Mm-hmm.
was in a state of shock because I'm like, they want me to sign the book. And they
Yeah.
want a picture with me. I'm thinking, I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just a kid that came up out of the project. What's the big deal? I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been
Yeah.
an amazing journey that led me to the second
Yes.
book, which I didn't want to write. After the first book, I told God, I said, okay, God, I really want to go back and do my music now because that's really where my heart is. And again, God just
Uh-huh.
laughed at me and said, no, that's not going to happen. So let's just
Uh-huh.
get busy and do book number two. And book number two came out called In the Spirit Intended. And I'm very honored to say that it actually got me to the status of best-selling author on Amazon in the summer of
Okay.
2019. And so by the time that second book had come out and I had done some things with book signing and things like that, I said, okay, God, I'm at the point
Mm.
now where I'm going to stop fighting you. What is it you want me to do next? And so
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
our book is now out in ebook form. That one's called Just a Closer Walk. And I think
Uh-huh.
the title for the third one is kind of synonymous with how this journey has really unfolded as far
Yeah.
as this walk where I've had to kind of get into a mindset of denying myself and
Mm-hmm.
getting ego out of the way and fear out of the way and
Mm-hmm.
just trust that God will lead me to where it is that I need to go. I think that's a challenge for all of us in some shape, form, or fashion to say that
Yes.
I'm going to trust you with the next steps that I take because in our
Mm-hmm.
humanness, we want to do it and then tell God, well, why don't you just follow me when he's trying to tell us, no, you need to follow me because I'm kind of the expert at this thing. I've done it a few times and you haven't. So,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
people are hard headed, they're stubborn, and a lot of times it's pride, and it's just really one of those things that
Yes.
you have to learn at some point to just kind of let go and let God do what he's calling you to do.
Yeah. You do. You do. So, is it possible that you could read us a small portion of what is out of Here I Am, Lord?
I am. And one of my favorite chapters, and this is hard to really quantify because there's 35 different chapters. Each of my books are 35 short chapters. And so to say that one is more favorable than the other, that's kind of hard to do. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think, well, okay, but when I'm thinking back, and I was thinking about this before we got together this afternoon, one of my chapters, one of the devotionals and inspirational essays from the first book, Here I Am, Lord, is called A Daily Blessing.
Okay.
And so that one is important even more so today because of the fact that I think that it's easy for us to feel entitled. It's easy for us
Mm-hmm.
to think that, well,
Yeah.
I woke up because I'm supposed to wake up and I deserve to wake up. And that's not the case at all. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of my favorite quotes from this is, and I'll just read this in this particular chapter, it says, there is an old song whose message is simple but so powerful. The essence of the message encourages us to count your blessings one by one, count them and give thanks for what God has done. And I think, Miss Moore, and this may just be my opinion, but with what we have dealt with for the last 2 years or so with COVID and everything like that, I'm really of the opinion that this period that we have gone through, hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
has given people pause to maybe just stop and think, you know what? I took for granted going out to dinner. I took for granted going to the grocery store, or I took for granted just going to my place of worship because I felt like I was entitled. And
Yes.
so I'm really of the opinion that in this last 2 years or so, if
Mm-hmm.
nothing else, hopefully it's made you just stop and really think about each of the daily blessings that we are bestowed with from God because He doesn't have to do them. And if we
He.
want to keep it 100, you think about, or we should think about,
Mm-hmm.
or those people who had COVID, and we've all had family and friends who had COVID and came,
Mm-hmm.
or we've had family and friends who, for whatever reason, didn't make it through COVID because of what happened.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
a daily blessing to me really is more and more profound today, simply because We really need to stop, as they say, and I mentioned this in this book as well, that, you know, sometimes we need to take time to smell the flowers and to
I know that's
really
right.
just think about the fact that, man, I woke up today,
Uh-huh.
I've got a roof over my head, I've got food
Amen.
I can go eat. And we
Uh-huh.
all have been guilty of taking that for
Mhm.
granted, like we were entitled to it, like I mentioned a few minutes ago. But
Yeah.
these last 2 years, hopefully, have really reminded us of the fact that each day that we do wake up, it's a blessing because
Yeah.
somebody's not going to wake up within the
Mm-hmm.
5 mile radius of where you are right now. So
Yes.
be thankful for
You know that's
each
right.
day. As I'm inclined to say, I may not have the car that I want,
Yeah.
a car that gets me from A to B.
Amen.
Okay, so that's why a daily blessing for me is really important from the first book. It's just a reminder that,
Yeah.
you know, you do need to stop and smell the flowers and really think about how blessed you are, because wherever you are, somebody wants to get to that level. So maybe stop and think about that sometimes. And so that's really
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite chapters from the first book.
Okay. Okay. So where do you see yourself in your writing career maybe 5 or 10 years from now?
Oh boy, that's a good question. That, ooh, man. 10 years from now, Lord willing, I'll be 77. And you know what? At this point, Miss Moore, I'm sort of
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to continue to write.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be open to what God's calling me to do.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a fourth book or a fifth book.
Mm-hmm.
It will
Mm-hmm.
probably
Mm-hmm.
remain to be seen. I'm writing the closing script for each of our radio shows because I'm also a radio show host. The program
Mm-hmm.
is called AJDW Conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
we do that each Sunday afternoon. Four black men come together. We talk about different issues here out of
Okay.
Omaha, Nebraska. It's on KCRO.com. It will be basically
Mm-hmm.
2 p.m. on the East Coast. But I write the closing script for that each week, and I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy doing that. I enjoy the challenge because I'm saying, okay, God, what am I going to write to close out this particular show for this particular topic? And
Okay.
I just sit down and say, okay, God, I'm going to leave it in your hand. I'm just going to type what you tell me to type.
I know, right?
We're going on 2 years with that. So, and that's been good. I'm also
Congratulations.
writing now for a blog out of South Africa called the Dreamers Collection, and just kind of inspirational type of essays and everything. I've been doing that for about 3 months. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm really just of the opinion, just continue to write and to do what you're being called to do. I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily looking at, okay, where will I be in 5 years or 10 years? I'm just going down the
Mm-hmm.
road and let's just see what happens. It's just,
I know, right? I
we
know.
all have our own plans about what it is we want to do. But like
Yeah.
Jeremiah 29:11 says, he knows the plans that he has. And a lot of times those plans don't necessarily come with our full agreement. We all
Yeah.
have one thing we want to do, and you wind up doing something totally different. And you think to yourself, how did I get here? Well,
Mm-hmm.
as much as we want to think about it, it's really not about us as much as it is about
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. It is. It is. So, you have a new book coming out?
Yes, the new book is going to be an ebook. This one's going to be called Just a Closer Walk. It'll be in the
Okay.
same vein as the first two books. The content in each of my books, all three, is very down to earth. The
Mm-hmm.
feedback that I get from people is the fact that they said is not what they call highfalutin, is not highly doctrinal, it's not
Mm-hmm.
deep religious. It's very down to earth. And each of my chapters, Miss Moore, is probably about 2 or 3 pages because
Okay.
people these days, at least this is my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit down and read a book that has a chapter that's 60 or 70 pages long. We don't have that attention span. I mean, let's just being honest about it. Let's just be real. Keep it 100.
I,
They want
see
you.
my But see, my thing is, Mr. Allen. My thing is, I'm an avid book reader. I
Mm,
don't care how long that book,
nice.
how thick the
You're the
book
rare
is.
exception.
I love reading. I love reading, and it is a thing of okay. I have I'm in a book club, right?
Okay.
And in the book club, we had to read this book called Learning to Breathe. And
Really?
we had the author is Janice Lynn Mather. Janice Lynn Mather. We had and we just started this book club, and our first book is entitled "Learning to Breathe." And me being a reader, once I start reading, it's hard me to put a book down.
Okay.
And the book is like, okay, how many pages? How many pages does the book have? The book has, it don't say. Wait a minute. Let me see something. No, she didn't put. I realized that she didn't put no. Okay, wait a minute. It's like 300 and it's 300 plus pages in the book,
Okay.
right? I read that book in 2 days.
Oh, that okay. That's some serious reading.
Yes, I love reading. It's like, and I've had over since I was a child. I've always loved reading because my grandmother sat down and read to me, and
Okay.
that's how I learned how to read.
That's where it
And
came
then
from.
it became a passion, and then I started like collecting books and collecting it.
Hmm.
I got a dictionary, and then I got these little children book, and then the older I got, the more I got into reading because and that's I think that's what sparked my interest of me writing my own book. And when you read, it takes you to another world.
It does.
Takes you to another world where you really can enjoy the moment and the passion of the writer. And it's like you step right into their
Hmm.
type their keyboard.
Absolutely.
You step
Absolutely.
into their keyboard and you be like, oh my God, I can't believe, oh, okay, all right, and then it becomes, well, okay, let me keep reading because this is really interesting and I want to see how the end, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So you say you have another book coming out and it is entitled again, Closer
Just,
Walk with
just a closer walk,
the
and that
Walk.
I think
Right.
the title for the third one really kind of symbolizes what has happened for me over the last 7 years, starting in 2015, is
Mm-hmm.
to have this closer walk and to continue to go down this road, really trying. That's old song that leaning on the Lord and trusting in His holy name, because that's really what it's about. Because in my humanness, one thing I've been good at is to mess things up. I'm an expert at doing that. If I do it by myself, I can.
Child, you ain't the only one.
I'm in top 10 material when it comes to messing up. So at
You
some,
ain't the only one.
at some point, you have to say, okay, God,
But
I'm
yeah,
kind of a hot mess here. I probably need to kind of
yeah,
look more towards you to get things done what needs to be done
yes.
correctly. So,
Yes, 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 yes. So, do you have any upcoming events that you have to do?
well, actually, what I'm looking at doing now, and I'm working with my social media person, is we're
Mm-hmm.
going to do an ebook signing here in Omaha probably in September. So I'm in the process now of getting that planned and trying to get that organized. One thing about being an author or being an entrepreneur of any in any fashion or form is
Yeah.
it's important for you to recognize, okay, what is it that you do well?
Yes.
What is it that perhaps you need help with? Now, the
Uh-huh.
social media stuff and setting up those kind of events, that's not my thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've learned in the process of doing this, okay,
Yes.
step back and say, okay, I'm going to leave this with you because this is
Yes.
what you do, and
Yes.
I'll follow your lead. So I've been working with my social media person. Her name is Martine Corte here in Omaha. Been working with her
Mm-hmm.
for about 3 years now, I think. And so it's been great because she has pushed me to
Mm-hmm.
be more active on the social media, to do these kind of interviews, to do the Facebook
Yeah.
lives. And so
Yeah.
she's pushing me out of that comfort zone because I
Yes.
did not grow up with this. And I did
Yeah.
not really begin the journey to being an author until I was like
Uh-huh.
60 years old. So I'm coming
Mm-hmm.
into a time in the season that's 60 years old where you've got the Facebooks, now you've got the Instagrams and the Twitters, and I'm like,
Twitter and the
what
TikTok came up.
how what is all this stuff? I'm
No,
like,
yeah.
And I give her credit because she's been very patient, because she would say, okay, you have to do something. You have to put a hashtag on it. So I'm looking at the number 3 on my keyboard. I said, that's the pound sign. She said, no, it's not the pound sign anymore. It's the hashtag.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, what's a hashtag? What does that mean? And so
Yeah.
she laughed like you did. She said, okay, we got some work to do here. I said, well,
Yes.
what do you
Yes.
want from me? It's
Yeah.
always been the
That's,
pound sign, and now you're talking about it as
yes.
a hash
That's
mark.
a nice man.
What's a hash mark? And the
Yeah.
other thing that I had, I'm still struggling with. I know it sounds really goofy, but I'm from the
No.
age, because of my background, that when you get to the end of a sentence, you put a period.
Yeah.
Then you put 2 spaces. That's all I ever
Yes.
knew. So she was telling
Mhm.
me about a year ago, she says, well, now because of the era that we're in, when you have a period at the end of a sentence, you only need 1 space. Totally freaked me out. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I've
Oh,
been doing
okay.
two spaces after a period for 40 years. Now you want me to change? And she
Yeah.
says, you have to change with the times. And I'm like,
Yes.
I
Uh-huh.
still struggle with that writing, because in my mind, because of how I have been trained. I
Yes.
write a sentence and I do space, and I'm like, okay, I don't have to do that anymore. But saying that to
Mm-hmm.
say this to our listeners, we have to be open to change. And we
Yes.
have to say that, okay, just because it was done that way in the past doesn't mean it still stays that same. Are we
Mm-hmm.
willing to move forward? Because if we don't move forward, Miss Moore, what happens is you
Get
get
left
left
behind.
behind.
You get left behind. Yes, you do. And that's the thing that I'm teaching. I started giving like private classes to some of the people that follow me. And I have one lady, she wants to create a podcast. And I'm teaching her how to create her podcast. And and how that's formatted, and how she can use her StreamYard,
Mhm.
and it is a thing of you. The technology that we have today puts everything out there faster.
Yep, it
Like
does.
you know how you had to advertise. If you want to put something out there, you had to advertise in the newspaper, right?
Mhm.
Now it's social media.
Social media.
And and some things have come obsolete. Like some people don't want to do the commercial. You know how you had to look toothpaste commercials, or they got the products and stuff, and it's like don't nobody really want to do that commercials no more. Not no, not no, not like that.
No.
They rather they break it down, put the product there, then they write their little copy text, and then that's how they advertise. And then
Yep.
they all right, okay, this gonna be a Facebook ad, or this gonna be Instagram ad. And I'd be like, okay, well, what's gonna happen to the newspaper? And so that's what has happened to the newspaper. Either they turn digital themselves, or they
Yep.
become obsolete.
And
So
to verify that, if everyone at ours would just stop and think back 20 years ago,
yeah,
people on a Friday night, Miss Moore, I know you remember, on a Friday night, where were they going? They were going to Blockbuster to get them some videos or something for the
yeah,
weekend. And now
mhm,
there's only one Blockbuster, I think, left in the United States. I think it's in Alaska, I thought I heard. But who would have thought 20 years later, Blockbuster
mm,
would be gone?
yes,
But it just shows how things change,
blockbusters,
and how you
uh,
used to have a VCR, and I really date myself
yeah,
now, but
and then it
things are
changed to a
gone.
DVD player. And then it changed to the DVD player, and now you don't even need that
We
neither.
don't
You
need
just
that.
on the TV, just click the button, and you could pick any movie you want. It's like, yeah, I know, because I remember when we had them. Now, I tell you, what got me was the music, since I'm a music lover. Okay, I grew up with albums,
Yep.
45s, 8 tracks.
Oh yeah, I remember
Okay,
those. I remember those 8 tracks.
now it's like, okay, well, then it moved from the 8 track to the cassette,
Yep, I
where
remember.
you still had your 45s and your albums,
Hmm.
right? Now it's like you don't need none of that. You
Nope.
don't need no 8 track. You don't have to have no cassette tape. You don't have to have no. Just go to this app and pull this song up,
That's
Spotify.
it.
And I'm like, okay, what else they gonna create? So um, how you say it's always evolving. It's always evolving. And then you see now you don't have to be sitting in front of a screen to even hear anything. You could play it. They play it on your glasses.
And you now didn't that seem like something out of Star Wars or something like that? And I
Star
would laugh
Trek.
at Star Wars back in the late 70s. I said this would
And I'm
never
like,
come true. But like you said, I don't know if it's some kind of Google glasses or something
yeah,
where
yeah, the
yeah,
group,
people
yeah,
walk around and they're just
yeah,
listening to or they're
they
talking
be
on their phone through their
talking
glasses.
about what,
I thought, what is going
they
on?
don't got an earpiece in, and
No,
you had that, that's just like the telephone.
that's
Had a telephone on the corner. You go to, you ain't had no phone in your house. You had to go to
a
payphone. Now
payphone.
you don't go. Now you don't go to payphone, and you don't got no phone in your house. Now it's all on. It's a cell phone.
Yes.
And then how bulky they were when they first came out, and now you don't even really have to. You got them in the watch. They got phones in the watches,
Yeah.
and or your earpiece and or the glasses. I'm like, okay. Next thing you just say, all right, Lexa, call Ruby or somebody, and it be done, and then you be, so. And how they used to, now you had the big what they call it, you had to go to get the birth certificate. Okay, you got to order birth certificate. Now it's like, okay, you want to do it online, we could do it online and you get it right now. Like,
Yep, you just
okay.
download it. That's where we are with technology because of how things are changing. And so
Yes.
from the authorship side or from the music side or just from like period, we
Yeah.
have to adapt because this is
Yep.
just how it is. I
Mm-hmm.
was not a proponent of texting, but I
Yeah.
just came to realize that sometimes people cannot pick up the phone. They just need
Mm.
to send you a short message. And
Mm-hmm.
my goddaughter, who's was in her early 20s, would never answer the phone when I called her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would not leave a message, and then I texted her one day. She was like, "Oh, yes. Well, what can I do? What's going on?" And I'm like, "Why didn't you answer the phone?
I'm saying,
Why?"
I
And
want it could have been an emergency.
I'm thinking, why don't you just answer the phone? But then I began to
I'm,
realize this new generation, this is how they communicate. They communicate through the social
yeah.
media, they communicate through texting. And
Yeah.
if
Mm-hmm.
you don't, you become a dinosaur.
Ooh.
And
That's
yeah,
deep.
I'm 67 and I'm trying to keep up, but I said, you know what? I have
Mhm.
to adapt, and even the authorship side, as far as working with people through Fiverr or doing interviews
Mhm.
like here through something called StreamYard. I mean, 10 years ago, you said StreamYard, you were thinking, you mean there's a stream in my yard? Well, what are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Or if somebody said Zoom, you talking about me racing up the street in a car.
Zoom, yeah.
That's how we communicate
Yeah.
now. But
Uh,
that's where we are. And
yeah.
who knows what 10 years would be like from now, because this kind of technology now would be obsolete in 10 years. But our challenge is to keep up and trust that we will be okay, and make it a
Mhm.
point to learn it, because I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I'm still learning about Zoom. I'm still learning about StreamYard. It still scares
Mhm.
me. I'm not going to sit there and pretend up front, but
Okay.
I'm recognizing that, well, I can't let that fear hold me
Yeah.
back. And it's one of the things I've learned through my journey as far as being an author is, okay,
Oh.
fear can paralyze you. It can cause
Yeah,
you
it
to stay in
can.
place. It's like you got a car that's got a great engine, but you're stuck in park and you refuse to get out of park. And that's
Mm.
what fear can do for you. So
Yeah.
when are you going to put it in drive and at least try to see what's
I
going to
know. Roll
happen?
down the hill or something. Roll
Something.
down the hill or something.
And you can rev the engine all you want in park, but you ain't going nowhere. So what are we doing
You
here?
can't. You can spend. You can. How you say how my grandma say? My grandma used to say this. You could talk all day long. You could talk your lips off, but until you put it into action, it ain't gonna mean nothing.
It don't mean nothing.
It don't mean
Don't
nothing.
mean
Yep.
nothing. So for people out there
Mm.
who have a dream, who are listening this evening, take the steps and try to make it come to fruition. Because I've always said, Miss Moore, I can live with the fact that I tried and maybe it didn't work. I
Yeah,
cannot live with the fact that I didn't try and then I look
yeah,
later and say, I wish I had.
I
Because
know.
I wish I had will haunt you, I believe, for a long time. And nobody wants that because that's a shadow that you can never get rid of.
Yeah, I know that's right. I know that's right. All right, Mr. Allen, it has been a pleasure speaking with you, and I am so happy that you decided to be on Author's Excerpt Sunday.
It's been my honor. I promise you. I'm still amazed every time when I do an interview. I keep thinking, I don't know how this is happening, but God, I'm just going to go on the journey and just be obedient and just try to do the right thing and get Alan out of
Mhm.
the way. That's the one challenge I have daily is to get Alan out of the way and let
Okay.
God lead. Because, like I said, if I'm trying to lead, yeah, I'm going to mess it up. I'm just
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, yeah. Well, everyone, this is Author's Excerpt Sunday, and we must thank Mr. Alan Black for being our special guest for the evening. And Mr. Allen, when you write your next book, you have to come back, okay?
I
When you
promise
put
I
that
will.
next book out.
Uh, Now you put the
Okay.
challenge out there, so you put the word out there in the atmosphere. I got to write another book so I can come back. So I guess I better start getting busy here this summer.
Okay. Okay. Well, you said and you have the new book coming out, so you can come back with the new book. When when you had time
Yeah,
with the new book. Yes, and then
I may do that
you
later on in
know
the fall. Right now, I'm just getting that
yeah.
launched, so I want to really devote some time to that
I
and
know that's right. I know that's
marketing
right.
and
And I
stuff like
wish you
that.
all
That's,
the
that's it.
best.
Thank you so much.
I
It's been
wish
an
you all the
honor.
best.
And tell everybody,
And
yeah, there's life here in the Midwest. We okay out here. We doing okay.
all right. Okay. All right, everyone. It has been an honor. It has been a honor of having Mr. Black on our program. Okay, everyone, and I will see you later, and uh I will be waiting and rooting for all my authors out there. Okay, babies, and I will see y'all again. Okay, y'all have a blessed evening.